Hello everybody, this is part 3 of subtopic 6.6 and we're going to start talking about the menstrual cycle. So the menstrual cycle is controlled by negative and positive feedback mechanisms involving ovarian and pituitary hormones. Now, let's start by talking about some of the organs that are involved and the cells that are going to be secreting the hormones. So the pituitary is a part of the brain up here. It's this little part right here, okay? And that's going to be secreting FSH and LH, which is involved in the control of the menstrual cycle. Okay, we've also got the female reproductive system, which we were talking about earlier, right? You've got your uterus, you have in the red here the uterine lining or the endometrium, you have your fallopian tubes here, you have your ovaries where the eggs are stored, right? The eggs are the ova. Okay, if you zoom in on the ovary, it actually looks like this right here. So there's what is called a follicle that's going to start developing. The follicle is what contains the eggs, okay? The eggs are going to be released through ovulation into the fallopian tubes over here, as I was talking about before, right? And then they would be fertilized by sperm if there were sperm present, and the egg that is fertilized would then be implanted in the uterine lining. Okay, and there are some hormones involved with thickening and maintaining the uterine lining to promote a successful pregnancy. So let's get into what I like to call FELP-POPO. This acronym is going to help you remember everything. Okay, so as I said, FELP-POPO is going to help you remember everything. Okay, so we've got FELP over here, and then we've got POPO over here. Now, what is the FELP part? These are the hormones involved. And it's also the order that the hormones are peaking in, and the order that the one hormone stimulates the next hormone and the release of the next hormone. POPO. These are the organs that release the hormones. Okay, so let's start over here with, this is the hypothalamus in your brain. Okay, and then you've got it's going to trigger the release of some of these hormones that we're talking about in the pituitary. You mainly just need to know about the pituitary for IB Bio. These are both located in your brain. Okay, so the pituitary releases two different types of hormones. Okay, first it's going to release which one? The F, right? So FSH. Okay, then it's going to release later the LH or luteinizing hormone. So all of these hormones, let's write them out. FSH, this is the follicle stimulating hormone. What in the world do you think it does? Well, it stimulates the follicle, stimulates the creation of the follicle. Okay, then we've got your estrogen. Then you've got luteinizing hormone, or LH. Okay, and finally, progesterone. Okay, since this is the menstrual cycle, we're going to draw the female reproductive organs. So you've got over here, okay, let's say that, so this is your fallopian tube, this is your ovary. Okay, we're going to draw another one on the other side. Okay, and then you have your uterus over here, and your uterus also has the uterine lining. very important, and your fallopian tube and your ovaries, right? Okay, uterine lining. I'm going to just accentuate that a little bit, okay, because it becomes important later. Okay, we're also going to do a close-up of this ovary right here. So a close-up of the ovary might look something like this, right? Okay. All right, so first hormone that is released, you just look at Felt-Popo. It is FSH, and it's released where? In the pituitary. This is what the POPO stands for. Pituitary, ovary, pituitary, ovary. Okay? FSH, estrogen. So FSH is produced in the pituitary. Estrogen is produced in the ovary. And then LH produced in the pituitary. And then you've got your progesterone produced in the ovaries. Okay, so let's look at how all of this works. First, you've got FSH being produced by the pituitary. What is FSH going to do? Remember, we said it's the follicle-stimulating hormone. So let's draw that happening. We're going to draw an arrow moving over here, and it's acting to stimulate the production and development of the follicle. Okay, so this is the follicle. Follicle contains the eggs or ova inside of it. Follicle. It produces which hormone? Well, what's the next hormone, right? It's estrogen. Okay, and what does estrogen do? Estrogen acts on this uterine lining. Okay, acts on the uterine lining to thicken the uterine lining. Why do we want to thicken the uterine lining? We want to thicken it to prepare it for pregnancy and prepare it for implantation of a fertilized egg, right? Okay, estrogen again is produced in the ovary, but more specifically by the follicle. Okay, the production of estrogen, by the way, is actually inhibiting FSH. Okay, so you can maybe draw an arrow like this from the E to the F. It's inhibiting the FSH, so I'm going to draw it as a red arrow. But the FSH stimulated the production of estrogen. Okay, so anytime that one hormone is stimulating the production of another hormone, that's actually positive feedback. But when the hormone like estrogen is inhibiting FSH, that's going to be negative feedback. Anytime there's inhibition occurring, it's negative feedback. Okay, so then we see the next hormone being produced is LH. Where is it being produced? In the pituitary. What causes it to be produced? Well, just look at the previous hormone that was produced. Estrogen actually triggers the production of LH. Okay, so LH got produced from the pituitary. It's going to act to cause ovulation to occur. What is ovulation? Okay, so again, causes ovulation. Okay, and FSH, remember, it stimulates the follicle to be produced. Right? Okay. So anyway, after the follicle was produced, and it produces estrogen, and it thickens the uterine lining or the endometrium, then we've got LH being produced. Okay, LH causes ovulation to occur. So we're going to draw this follicle over here, moving over here, and it actually busts through the ovary, and the ovary literally bursts. Okay, I'm going to show that right here. The ovary bursts, and the egg is released. This is called ovulation. The egg is released where? Into the fallopian tube. Okay, right there. Okay, and then if there are sperm present over here, then those sperm may fertilize the egg over there. So this would be the sperm, okay, and that would be the egg. Okay, fertilization happens, possibly, and then if it does, it actually ends up being implanted, the fertilized egg ends up being implanted in the wall of this endometrium, right here. Okay, now let's come back over here though, because we're still not done with these hormones. We got to the L with LH. The LH caused ovulation to occur, but also because it's called luteinizing hormone, it causes this thing to form here, known as the corpus luteum. So I'm going to draw that as being this red thing right here, corpus luteum. You can remember again because luteinizing hormone. What does the corpus luteum do? It produces the next hormone that we're going to be talking about here, which is progesterone, the P in PHELP, right? So, produces progesterone. What does the progesterone do? It actually thickens and maintains. So the progesterone, I'm going to draw it like right here, thickens and maintains the uterine lining. So we can draw the uterine lining as being even thicker. How does it, or why does it thicken and maintain this uterine lining? I'm going to draw it getting thicker and being maintained even more than when estrogen did that. So with progesterone, why does it do that? Progesterone maintains the uterine lining so that in case there is a fertilized egg that gets implanted in it, it has enough nutrients and blood vessels, because that's part of what's thickening it, is more blood vessels that are carrying more nutrients to the growing and developing embryo that's going to develop into a fetus and eventually pregnancy and giving birth. So we've got progesterone. Okay. Thickens plus maintains uterine lining, also known as the endometrium. Okay. So there we have progesterone. And now this is if there is a fertilized egg that is implanted in the uterine lining, then that's a pregnancy has occurred, right? And so that's why we wanted to thicken the uterine lining there. But if a pregnancy does not occur and there is not a fertilized egg that is implanted, then what happens? Well, then the progesterone, which by the way was actually inhibiting FSH, just like estrogen was inhibiting FSH, which is what kind of feedback? Negative feedback right there. The progesterone, if there is a pregnancy, it would keep increasing more and more, and that's actually positive feedback. But if there is no pregnancy, then we need to start the cycle all over again. How do we start the cycle all over again? Well, the progesterone levels actually have to decrease. And when the progesterone levels decrease, then the corpus luteum dissolves, so we stop producing progesterone, and FSH starts to be stimulated to be produced again, and the whole cycle starts over again.